Dr. Ethel Percy Anders. She was a principal at a school in California, and when she retired, she went to look for one of her teachers. And what she found was she found this teacher in a chicken coop in very poor health and with no insurance. And so Ethel got mad. She went to over 40 companies so that she could get insurance for the retired teachers. And finally, one of them said yes. And then Ethel said, well, retired teachers aren't the only people that need insurance after they retire. Everybody does. And in 1958, she founded AARP. And that was 10 years prior to Medicare coming out. So she was a visionary. And one of the things that Ethel did was she really advocated for the senior population, and she always said to serve and not be served. That's her motto. So what's on our agenda today? We're going to talk about some fraud examples, tactics that these con people use, some prevention so that you don't get, you can identify a scam, and then some resources. Now, a lot of what we're talking about is in that little booklet that you all got. Okay, so there's more information in that booklet. Well, let me ask you a question. How many of you have been approached with a fraudulent offer? And do you know someone who has been a victim of identity theft or fraud? Could be you or it could be somebody that you know. Because identity theft is the #1 scam. Not great to know, but it is. So here's some fraud examples. Identity theft, investment fraud, the romance scam. Has anybody heard of the romance scam? We're going to talk about that in a minute. Military and veteran scams. People who, were in World War I or in the Korean War, they're getting scammed. The cryptocurrency and charity scams and lottery scams. We'll talk about that as well. So just some identity theft statistics. Every 2 seconds, somebody's identity is stolen. So as we've been here, how many seconds has that been? All these people, their identity has been stolen. Which comes out to about 21.4 million people annually. Now what do you think, how much money do you think that is? You throw out a number.
Billions.
A million.
Billions.
Millions.
Billions.
Billions, gee. Billions with, I'm sorry, billions with a B. 16 billion stolen through identity theft annually. And that's just the people who actually report it. So it's probably much higher than 16 billion. So how does this identity theft happen? Well, some of it is done through phishing. Somebody will contact you with a message that, or an email that there's a problem with your bank account. I mean, how many of you have used iPhones and you've gotten a text that says your ATM card is no longer good at Webster Bank? But do you even bank at Webster Bank? No, these are phishing. They want you to click on something within that text that will take you someplace else where then they can gain control. What Marc was talking about was stealing the mail. We were at the International Association of Financial Crime Investigators a couple weeks ago. It was a conference, and the postal inspectors were speaking about how the people who are delivering mail are being attacked, violently attacked, to take their key, and it's called the arrow key, and that arrow key goes into the blue mailbox. So what are they looking for? They're looking for checks so that they can wash them, like Marc was just saying, change the amount, and make it out to themselves. A little story about that, I just heard last week. My girlfriend's aunt got a call from a bank in, I think it was Virginia, and they said, you don't have the funds for this check to go through. And she was like, it's my Comcast check. It's only like for $230. They go, no, this one's for $7,000 and you don't have that in your bank account. So someone had stolen that, washed it, and then tried to cash it. Out of state, even.
and social security numbers.
Oh, that's a joke.
You know, if you have anything with social security numbers on it, I just advise you to, any paperwork, to make sure you shred it. I'm sure probably the town even has shredding events where you can bring your documents to be shredded. What happened? Oh, there we go. All right, another type of fraud is investment fraud, where they'll say that, you know, they have this great deal, you can invest in X, Y, or Z, but you have to do it today. You know, you can't go home and think about it, can't do anything, you have to do it today. So there's this pressure that they put on people to do an investment, okay? And what do we say to everybody? For anything, to stop and verify. And I got those hand motions from a detective I was working with. He said, stop and verify. So I do that all the time. I don't maybe do that physically, but in my head I do that. Because you want to do your homework. You don't want to be scammed. You want to make sure that the information people are giving to you is accurate. Now this lady, Jean, her and her husband, they were thrilled because they won the Jamaican lottery. $1 million. All they had to do was send like $7,500 for taxes. And as she was telling her daughter said, but when did you buy that lottery ticket? How could you be scammed if you don't even have the lottery ticket? Okay? Also the online scams, you get something from PayPal that says your PayPal account is no longer good. And you have to look at who this comes from, because most of the times when you look there, it's really not, it's not even close to who they say they are. But they do mask it with the logos. So for a while there, people who were purchasing or selling things on eBay were getting a lot of online. As a matter of fact, yesterday as I was preparing for this, I got an email from Chase telling me that there are scams and how I can protect myself. So I had been scammed at one time through that credit card, so now they let me know about it. Now, the grandparent scam. How many of you have had a call? Grandma!
3 times.
3 times? Twice? Yeah. And they say, okay, I got arrested on spring break. Don't call my parents. And so, but it's early in the morning, and what's happening to you? Your heart's pumping, you're like, oh my God, what's happening? What do I need to do? And they go, okay, well, the first thing that you usually say is the person's name. So, you know, grandma, you might say, oh, Betty, is that you? And of course, now they have your name. And then they say, okay, so we're going to put somebody on the phone that will help you send the money to us. Because it's only going to cost $2,000 to get me out of jail. And that's the grandparent scam. Now, I had somebody in my neighborhood that this happened to, and they actually said, we have an agent in your area, they'll come to your house and pick up the money. So they went to Walmart and they bought the gift cards and came back with them. Now, how many people have been called by the IRS? Anybody get the phone call? We're going to listen to a call here.
Here are your AARP top tips on how to identify an IRS scam. Ever get a call from someone who claims to be from the Internal Revenue Service and then demands money? It's a common scam. In recent years, thousands of people have been frightened into sending millions of dollars to these crooks, pretending to be the IRS. Here are some ways to identify and deal with these scammers. The IRS usually doesn't phone, they send letters. Unless the IRS has already sent you lots of overdue notices, treat any callers claiming to be with the IRS with suspicion. Beware the Social Security number trick. If the caller recites all or part of your Social Security number, it may have been stolen. That does not prove the person's from the IRS. Phone numbers can deceive. Your caller ID might say IRS, or it may show the number of a real IRS office, but caller ID can be spoofed or faked to deceive you. The IRS doesn't threaten arrest. If the caller demands payment, bullies you, or threatens to call the police, be confident that's not the IRS. Don't be scared by this. Scams can also come via email. If you get one that seems fishy, forward scam emails to the IRS. Send them to phishing@irs.gov. But please don't click on any links or attachments. For more tips to identify fraud, visit aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork.
So just to recap what you saw, no one's going to call you from the IRS. It starts with letters. And you can always go to irs.gov and look up your own account. And again, stop and verify. Who's really calling you? The whole thing where they can mask your phone number. And how many people have gotten a call at home and it's been your own number that comes in? The first time that happened to me, I was like, what? No, Brian's at work. What's he calling? Wait, that's our phone number. Yeah. They're very clever, these folks. And now robocalls. A lot of you get robocalls are coming in constantly, and especially now during the election season, I'm sure you're going to get a lot of robocalls. But they do have legitimate purposes, so they're confirming appointments, or maybe you had a flight change or something. I know I get a lot from AARP when we're having some kind of a town hall. I'll get a robocall on that, and then I can just connect right in and listen to what they're talking about. But then there's also the illegitimate ones. They come from companies that perhaps you have not authorized to contact you. They threaten or entice you with rewards. And one of the things that we say is, if you don't recognize the number, perhaps you don't want to pick up the phone. I don't pick it up. I let it go to voicemail. If somebody really needs to contact me, they'll leave me a message, and then I can call them back. But what's the big secret about scamming people? It's getting you under what they call the ether. It's a heightened emotional state. So if you are getting that grandparent's call, your heart is pumping, you can't think rationally because so many thoughts are going through your head. Okay, he said don't call his parents. Okay, I gotta get some money, how am I gonna get the money? All this stuff is going through your head. And so you are in this emotional state, and they love to keep you there. One of the con men that we had talked with, he said, once you start getting logical, I know I lost you. So if you say like, who is this calling? Where are you calling from? What is it that you want? They'll hang up because they know they lost you. But if you are like, okay, you want me to go to Walmart and get, what do you want me to get? You want me to get some gift cards? What's the denomination I should get? Those are the kinds of things, and you stay under that ether, and they just keep hammering you. And not only that, once they have you like that, they're going to call you back. And then they're going to call you again, and again, and again. They're going to keep harassing you because their only job is to take your money. They don't care if it's $1, they want it. So what are some persuasion tactics? Well, there's the phantom riches, like, okay, it's something that you've really wanted your whole life and now somebody is offering it to you. Okay, but it's on a limited basis, and how expensive is it? Or profiling. So once they get you on the phone, they start talking to you, they say, oh, how's your neighborhood? How's your neighbors? Do you have a lot of family? Do they live in the area? They start asking you these personal questions, and then they start profiling you, and they find out, what is your emotional trigger? So you might talk about grandchildren, and that might be an emotional trigger. And the next thing you know, you're getting the grandparents' call. Okay, scarcity. We only have so many, like, coins. They're very rare, and you have to buy it now. You have to buy it now. Don't wait, because it won't be here. And then source credibility. What do? They talk about, they say they're from a government agency, like the IRS, or they'll say they're from the police department. They could say they're a professor at a school. And then fear and intimidation. When you start coming down out of that ether, and you start getting a little bit logical, and you want to get rid of them, what they do is they start intimidating you. one lady said to her, if you don't pay us, we know where you live, we'll come burn your house down. So what does that do? That puts you right under the ether because now you're all upset all over again. And then one of the things that's happening now with scams is that people are blaming themselves. You say, oh my God, how did I fall for this? I'm an educated person. How could I be so stupid? Why did I send the money? And there are people who have sent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some people they get caught through Facebook. You know, I don't know if any of you are on Facebook, but you could reply to something that somebody posted on Facebook, and then somebody will reply and say, oh, I looked at your picture, you're so cute, I'd really like to talk to you. And that did happen to somebody who had lost her husband, and she started this conversation through Facebook, and it turns out she lost $230,000. But when we're talking about as a victim, you do this to yourself. You know, why did this happen to me? But what we want to do is we want to flip that narrative on its head. Okay? Instead of saying, you know, how could you fall for that? How could you be so stupid? It's not your fault. These people are professional scammers. That's all they do for a living, and you are the victim of a crime. Crime has been perpetrated against you. So we want to try to flip that. Like, if somebody had a fire in their house, you wouldn't go over their house and say, why'd you leave the matches out? You would say, what can we do to help you? Oh my God, this happened to you. So a little bit of empathy goes a long way to the victims. And we want to stop blaming them and stop shaming them. So what are things you could do? Protect your Social Security number and personal information at all costs. Monitor your bills and financial accounts, online and in paper, if you still get paper. My husband looks at our accounts every single day. Do your homework before investing. And also credit reports. You can freeze your credit at all 3 credit companies. And that information is in your booklet. Once you freeze your credit, if your identity was stolen and somebody went out and tried to buy a car and finance it, it would get stopped because your credit was frozen. And if it's free to freeze it, and it's also free to unfreeze it. But now, who do you think is the most vulnerable? The most vulnerable population of identity theft? Believe it or not, it's children. And why is that? Child is born, child gets a Social Security number. When's the first time they really use it? Maybe when they're like 18, getting ready to go to college. Or they're going to buy a car or something. So that span of 18 years. So when people are posting, oh, look at my new baby, they're looking at that saying, how can I get that Social Security number?
How do they?
Pardon me?
How do they get a Social Security number?
Oh, there's a gentleman that we've worked with that works on the dark web. You can go on the dark web and for like $40 get a complete profile of somebody. It's amazing the information that is out there that they can hack into. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
We had at Medicare, we had our original Social Security number.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided to give us another number when you go to the doctor. So now we have that number. So far, the last 3 weeks, I've gotten 3, they've gotten my identity from 3 companies and they're all medical. And then I have to call the company that's handling the fraud. And I have to give this person that I don't know all my information.
No.
Oh.
Yes, you do.
No.
No, you do.
So if you had like Medicare
It's a
fraud,
company.
Doesn't matter.
you should be calling. This happened to my husband because he gets CPAP. He has the CPAP machine,
Yeah.
and he's gotten a couple of bills for CPAP from oddball companies.
Yeah.
So he called Medicare, and we have United Health. He called them both, And they said that particular company, they were watching them because they were defrauding so many people. So start with Medicare and then your if you have supplemental insurance.
Yeah, but they have, these companies are, I had to register with them, and then I had to get, I registered with them, and then they have all the, I also have to go to the credit companies, the three of them, Experian.
Right.
Yeah. So these companies, they hired them, and the credit companies know about it. So I don't think Medicare has anything to do with it.
Have you lost any money?
No.
Oh, thank God.
No, but they have my information.
Mm.
That doesn't sound normal.
Oh, yeah, I've gotten it before, and so I freeze my credit. All my,
Everything's frozen. That's good.
I froze ours too.
Yeah, good. That, I mean, it really makes a difference.
I mean, should I call Medicare? I don't think so.
Yeah.
If I have three, there have been three,
You know what? Could we talk afterwards?
yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So cybersecurity. That's a buzzword now too. So again, monitor your accounts online. Secure your passwords. Please don't write your password down and put it on a sticky note and stick it on your computer. Protect your computer. So make sure that you have some type of an application in there that actually protects your firewall if you're going out and you're on the internet. Control your surfing. Be careful where you are. Sometimes you might click something wrong and you might end up where you don't want to be. Watch for those fake connections. A lot of times they want you to click like in an email or click online. Just be very careful of that. And again, these phishing scams, because and I got caught myself a couple of years ago. I was waiting for a package to come and it said, oh, it's in Naugatuck, so here, click here and you can go get it. And I was like, oh, okay, I clicked there, and as soon as I clicked it, I was like, oh no, I called my husband because he's in IT and he froze everything, so phew, I was very lucky. But as part of AARP, we offer you to be able to call the helpline, and our helpline is 877-908-3360. Started a few years ago, kind of like that carpet company. We thought we'd give it a little jingle. But if something happens to you and you have some questions, this line is, I was going to say manned and womaned by volunteers, AARP volunteers, who are trained, and there always is a live person at the end of the call. So you're not calling and leaving a voicemail. There's somebody there to answer your call, and it's 24/7. This was just a little success story I was going to tell you. We did one of these in the People's Bank branch a couple of years ago. Now they're M&T, but up in Vernon. And we were just in the lobby like this, and the tellers were over there. And that afternoon, somebody came in with the Publishers Clearinghouse letter that they have won all this money. All they have to do is cash this check that's enclosed. But please don't cash it before calling us. Well, the gentleman didn't call them. He came into the bank, and because the teller had been listening, she automatically knew this. She saw the red flags, and she was like, no. She called the manager over. It took them over 2 hours to convince him he did not win the Publishers Clearinghouse contest. It would have been a lot of money that he would have been out of. So, does anybody have any questions? And then if you want to, there's a lot of events that go on in the state for AARP. You could just go to aarp.org/CT events. We'll give you all the Connecticut events. We do things like Free on Fridays at Beardsley Park. We do stuff at Mystic. We do stuff at a lot of the museums. And we also do like movies for grown-ups. Plus we do these types of presentations.